Nation Falcon fans, what's going on? It is your host C Money with DFU, followed by my co-host Robert, aka Mega Biv. Falcon fans, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, comment, and ring the bell so you know when we drop daily breaking content like this tonight with the Falcons Lions recap, a pop-up show here tonight. I have already introduced myself. Robert, what's going on, man? Glad to have you here tonight with me to talk Falcon football. An actual game, Robert. We have a game to analyze here on the podcast. Glad to have you here tonight, brother. How have you been before we get too deep into the Falcon content?
It's been a good week, man. Just things are finally falling back into place at work. I'm on my regular route again. Things should be, steadying out. And of course, middle of August, preseason football, it's just a welcome sight.
Absolutely. It is always fun time when it is Falcon football. And we have a game to break down tonight. Real quick, shout out to Vince with the first comment in the chat. It says, good evening, fellas. What's going on, Vince? Glad to have you here tonight, brother. If you're new to the channel, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you can view us every time we go live. Shout out to Mr. Vince and everybody else viewing on the YouTube or Facebook side of things. Before we get too deep into any kind of content, I want to give, our thoughts and prayers, obviously, to the young fella out of Detroit, Morris Norris. I believe I'm pronouncing that correct. There was a post here on Twitter exactly as the ambulance pulled off the car that says, the last time I saw 50 medical personnel people around a player, DeMar Hamlin was on the ground. Tonight, it's the Lions' 24-year-old D-back, Morris Norris, praying with all I have for this kid. Both teams just said, game over. I'm supposed to talk now, but I'm speechless. Hashtag One Pride. Shout out to Mark Ryan, sports analysis for the Detroit Lions. I'm sure that's a hard, thing to even talk about, to even much less be interviewed for. I seen the interview after the game. They were interviewing Raheem Morris, and Raheem Morris gets a little shooken up about it. Doesn't really care to talk about it, trying to get to the locker room to his players. But Robert, obviously, if you want to speak on this for a second, but definitely thoughts and prayers to DFU, or out from DFU to Morris Norris.
Yeah, definitely. It was the right move to call the game. Kudos to Raheem and Dan Campbell. Um, Football's a physical game. It's a brutal game at times. And prayers to this young man. You hate to see it. Just good health in life is more important than any game. So that's just hats off to both teams for just, hey, we've seen enough. Let's pray for this kid, and we'll pick up the pieces later. We'll get back to work when the time's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never a good thing to see the stretcher come out, but when you see the ambulance on the field, Robert,
Yeah.
it's really not a good thing to see. So definitely thoughts and prayers out to the whole organization, every player that was impacted by this. I'm sure everybody on the field, much less, audience, viewers, stuff like that. I mean, that's somebody's family, that's somebody's son, that's out there on that field. So definitely thoughts and prayers out to that. Shout out to, as you said, Robert, shout out to both teams and coaches for making the right call, the right decision there to suspend that game. And let's just start over next week. And hopefully, we get an update on this Morris Norris. And obviously, I'll be keeping up with that very, very closely to see the outturn of that. But definitely the right decision. Robert, turning the page a little bit, heading into the actual game, the recap of the Atlanta Falcons versus the Detroit Lions with DFU. I believe it's our 155th episode, Robert. So claps to that. Glad to have everybody that has continued to support DFU. And the number of subscribers in the last 3 weeks, man, have just been very, very humbling. We thank you guys for everybody that's, subscribed, liked, left a comment. Robert, diving right into it, man. Who stood out? Like who on your, like right now, as you're sitting at your table on this podcast, who is on your mind right now after this first preseason game?
James Pierce.
James Pierce Jr. I love to hear it.
Love what I saw from him, and just not just Pierce, but even into the second half, some of these guys that are fighting for the roster spot. I mean, I am loving Jeff Ulbricht's scheme already.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he's bringing the heat. We were getting off the edge. We were getting pressure on their quarterback, and just this is what's been sorely lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And also want to give a shout out to our hopefully number 2 quarterback, Easton Stick. I really liked what I saw from him. nice touch on his passes. That touchdown to Chris Blair in the corner, that was perfectly thrown.
What a clutch drive, Robert. You're down, Detroit scores on you, you come back the very next drive, and seemingly the first few drives after your field goal. Shout out to Craig, I believe I'm saying that right, for the 57-yarder. But right before that, or right after that, you had a lot of 3 and outs. You had a lot of drives that stalled there, and then you answer right back with the nice pass, like you said, to Chris Blair. But yeah, continue on, Robert.
His Easton Stick's completion percentage was very good. I honestly think that, if this keeps up, we may be seeing Kirk Cousins in New York Jet Green before too long.
Oh man, I love to see it. I love the scheme that's been intact. I love to see. And you speak about James Pierce Jr. and this was a fact that me and Philip talked about during the game. I was like, man, they're chip blocking James Pierce Jr. in a preseason game. And Tori McElhaney on Twitter, she was at the game. She goes, "LOL, Detroit is not wanting James Pierce Jr. getting anywhere close to the quarterback, chipping him with the tight end, then putting the right guard and tackle him. That is crazy." Falcon fans, James Pierce Jr. is going to be a real problem for people. And if he isn't the problem, it's going to be somebody else, and that's because of James Pierce Jr. There was many a times tonight that James Pierce Jr. caused havoc. He didn't finish the job and get that official sack, but James Pierce Jr. caused that quarterback to step up in the pocket numerous of times throughout the night. He chased down the running plays on the back end. He was always around the ball. James Pierce Jr. is a young athlete that I'm excited to see here in Atlanta. But Robert, a guy that really stood out to me that me and Philip talked about it. We had a pregame show. You were obviously at work earlier in the day, but we did a pregame show. And a guy that I said that I was really, really looking out for, a battle position that I was really keying in on was Xavier Watts and our guy, DeMarco Helms, returning from the injury. And also another key position we mentioned was Billy Bowman and D. Alford at the nickel position. You've seen a very, very big glimpse of what the safety position could look like with DeMarco Helms at the helm of this defense at safety beside Jesse Bates. DeMarco giving him the finger after what I call a legal hit. The receiver had possession of the ball. He comes in, clean shoulder, and just absolutely lays the hammer to the Detroit Lions receiver. DeMarco Helms, to me, was my MVP of tonight's performance. I love what James Pierce Jr. did. I love what DeMarco Helms did. You did kind of pick an offensive player. You said Easton Stick. If I had to pick an offensive player, I would go with Drummond, the receiver, 81 Drummond. Kid had a lot of nice catches earlier on into the game when his number was called. I like the rotation of what I've seen with how you had Arnold Ebiketie too, Robert. I forget to mention Arnold Ebiketie with the strip sack. Like Arnold Ebiketie really came in and delivered this game. Like early on in the first drive, like AK made his presence. Like AK was there, and then he gets the strip sack. Then the first fumble that the quarterback makes is because of James Pierce and AK. Like then you had that nice fresh rotation with Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. Then you can take Leonard Floyd, slide Leonard Floyd in. Then you can take Ebiketie and you know what I'm saying? Like it's an endless rotation there. Like these guys are all going to see the field. And from what I've seen early on, they're going to ask a lot of Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. Robert, did you notice how long Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. was in this game?
Yeah, they were out there for a pretty good while. And just, and that's the reason they were picked in the first round. These kids are expected to come in and make an immediate impact. And they did that tonight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Shout out to the Sports Nuts in the chat. What it says, at the end of the day, it's just a game, but glad the teams did agree to end the game. Absolutely. It was the right call. Definitely was the right decision. It says such a bad injury. Such a bad injury. Hopefully he'll be okay. Shout out to the Sports Nuts. Shout out to Thomas Hernandez. He says that was a completely class act by the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to Thomas, man. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. We're glad to have you here in the chat. Falcon fans, tap in. We're talking Falcon football. Robert, another player that kind of stood out to me on the defense side of the ball was Brandon Delores, a draft pick that we selected a few years back, making a lot of ruckus there at the nose tackle DN position. Robert, did you get to see much of Brandon Delores tonight?
No, I didn't. We were actually, I kind of tune into the game a little bit late. We were out to dinner, and of course, I've got the NFL Plus on the phone, so I was like,
it's preseason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you still got to, and Christy, she gets upset with me. Put the phone away at the dinner table. Nope, not while the Falcons are on. But
not while the Birds are on TV, babe. You're going to have to wait on that one. Vince Vargas in the chat said, good to hear your guys' thoughts of this game. Wasn't on the NFL Network here in California. Shout out to the California viewers. Shout out for finding the down south boys here in the dirty, dirty south. He says, the Audacity app feed was blacked out like listening to games on the radio, old school. Vince, question for you while you're here in the chat. Are you an Atlanta Falcon fan or are you just an NFL fan in general? Shout out to you for being here. Appreciate your comments. Robert, any other defensive player that maybe stood out to you later on in the game, early on, whatever it may have been, defensively? Maybe it's Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts, whoever. Who kind of stood out to you on the defense? And maybe after that, who were you surprised that you did not see on the field tonight?
I noticed D'Angelo Malone got on the field in the second half, and I think he got some pressure on the quarterback, and I think he got penalized.
He got a couple. Yeah, he got a roughing the passer. Yeah, it was hands to the face or some shit.
But
and Raheem Morris, I'm glad you addressed that because I forgot. Raheem Morris went straight to him. When he comes off the field, Raheem Morris is straight at him. So you look at a guy, D'Angelo Malone, that's kind of on the end of his contract here in Atlanta, the draft pick that probably Raheem Morris would like to re-sign. You did draft the guy. So, I mean, Raheem Morris didn't, but the regime drafted, D'Angelo Malone. So a guy that really hasn't got much playing time, Robert, at all. So it's good to see players like that are out there getting playing time. There was a guy that I forgot of the name of. He's number 41. It slips my mind. He was a linebacker. He was wearing a red undershirt. I'm going to go back and watch all the replays, but fresh off the mind, I can't remember his name, but he made a lot of noise early on in the game. Robert, how about, did you get to see, were you tuned in for the Helms hit?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Well, let me see if I can't pull this up. Before I do, Vince in the chat says NFL fan because of fantasy football, ESPN, 49ers fan first, but the whole league is full of talent. Shout out to Vince, man, for tuning in. He said, once the Falcons signed Nick Nash, I started following Falcon football. Good team. Nick Nash showed out tonight, Vince. I don't know if you heard that on the radio, but Nick Nash had a lot of completions, some big plays. Even Terry Fontenot, Robert, was on the mic at the time when Nick Nash was actually making great plays. So that's a big battle there, Robert. Let's talk about that. You have Nick Nash, Casey Washington. Now you have 19, what's his name, Chris Blair. Mm-hmm. Three guys there. Casey Washington didn't even play tonight. He wasn't even dressed out. So I don't know what that means, but Nick Nash and Chris Blair both did, and they both kind of balled out. Chris Blair was the only touchdown on the night in the air. So, how do you look at that room when you evaluate that? Because even DJ Chark got some playing time tonight, but very late, very, very late in this preseason game. So how does that look heading into the season? Is this what is your method behind that? Why was DJ Chark so far back in the preseason game? And why were some of these Nick Nash, these Chris Blair, why were these players above DJ Chark, the guy that you went and signed, or in the offseason as soon as Mooney went down? Robert, your opinion?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Chris Blair's been here a while. Nash, we signed him earlier in the year. I think he's got a little bit more familiarity with the team culture and the system. And that's not a knock against Chark. I think he's a fine player. I think he's a good addition. But we've been pretty high on Nick Nash since they signed him undrafted, and him along with Kobe Bryant on the defensive side of the ball. Those are two guys that I think are eventually going to make this team when the cuts are made. The wide receiver room itself. Yeah, it's pretty crowded, and Raheem and this coaching staff's going to have some tough decisions to make at the end of the preseason, but it is not a bad problem to have. We had that last year with Rondale Moore. He got hurt, missed the season, and now, unfortunately, we're missing Darnell Mooney, which we wish him a speedy recovery and get back on the field as soon as possible. But
absolutely,
I'm excited for the receiver room. I mean, we've got talent and we've got depth. And that's, last year, Ray stepped up, and Federo Hodge stepped up. And, I think we got some guys that are just, they just want a chance to get on the field and prove themselves at a pro level. And they're going to be busting their butts all preseason. It's going to be interesting to see who gets the final roster spots.
Absolutely. Vince said he checked out the stats. Nick Nash with 3 catches with over 11 yards per reception. That's pretty good for a preseason debut here in Atlanta. We'll take it because, Robert, let's be honest, the last few preseasons, you haven't had any depth at receiver like you just stated. It's finally nice to have depth at a receiver position because it's been very, very shallow since the Julio days. Since Julio left and, Russell Gage and who's another one? Help me out here.
Calvin Ridley.
And then you had I forget what they called him, Jeff Hardy, something like that. You had those kind of players that were, second tier, third tier receivers, and then that kind of dropped off. Now you see the Falcons kind of building that back, and that's why the last 2 years they've taken a receiver. They took Casey Washington with a pick, and then Nick Nash with the undrafted free agent pick. So once again, Robert keyed on with exactly why you have such many battles at that receiver position. Robert, we're going to check out the stats here. I'm going to run through them real fast, and we'll talk about them and, names that stand out. Real quick, Falcons passing stats, Easton Stick, 15 for 18 tonight with 149 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. Easton Stick really bought out. Emory Jones, with the short time that he was allowed to play, being that the game was suspended tonight. Emory Jones with 4 for 5, still good stats, 49 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Rushing, where was Carlos Washington Jr. at tonight, Robert? He did not touch the field at all. I don't know what the situation was with that, but running back, you had Carter with 3 carries, 12 yards, Jones 2 for 9, Corbin 1 for 1, and Dotson 5 carries for 0 yards. Receivers, Drummond, like I said, 8 receptions, 63 yards for 7 yards average. Chris Blair, 3 for 54. Chris Blair balled out. 18 yards average. Nick Nash, 3 for 35 yards, 11 average. D. Silas, 1 for 15, 15-yard average. Skinner Jr., 1 for 14. Simmons, 2 for 9. Dotson, 1 for 8. Defensively, you had D'Angelo Malone with 3 tackles, 2 assists. Lamar Jackson, 3 for 1. Kobe Bryant with 3 tackles. Woods, 6 tackles, 1 assist. DeMarco Helms, 2 tackles, 0 assists. Brandon Dolores, 2 tackles. Ebiketie, 1 tackle, 1 sack. That was a strip sack to be exact. Fuller, 1 for 1. Taquan Graham with a fumble recovery, a tackle as well. Zach Harrison, a little action, 1 tackle. Watts, 1 tackle. So, yeah, you have Walker with 1 assist. But, that don't really stand for like what Walker and James Pierce did as pressure-wise, because they really did push the quarterback out of the pocket. So, you hear those stats. Ultimately, the Falcons' final was Lions 17, Falcons 10. Falcons were driving the ball on that last drive when the game was canceled. So, ultimately, this is a preseason game. It doesn't matter. It won't stand. But, Robert, just from what you were able to view tonight's game, what would you maybe rate the Atlanta Falcons' overall Week 1 preseason game, offensively and then defensively?
I'd probably give them somewhere between a B+ and a A-. Overall, I was really impressed with the defensive scheme. And of course, the offensive numbers were pretty good, both for Easton Stick and for Jones. The last play of the third quarter, while we were driving before the game was suspended, I can't remember who he completed the pass to, but it was off a play fake, and Jones stepped up in the pocket. He was pressured, just showed excellent poise, and dropped a dime right in the middle. I don't remember who the receiver was that caught it, but just that's what I like to see. I mean, we early last year under Kirk, and this is not knocking him at all, but I think that the passing game was a little bit too lethargic. Not much, as far as attacking the other defenses. That was something I really liked seeing out of both quarterbacks tonight. And just open the playbook. Be wide open with your play selection. I think Zach Robinson's finally getting that. And of course, on the defensive side, Jeff Ulbrich is turning these rookies. He turned Walker, Pierce, and some of these other guys loose. Just say, hey, get in there and attack. Just there's no more of this. Okay, it's 3rd down and 2, and you've got guys 20 yards off the line.
Right.
So
speaking of the aggression, Robert, how does it feel to walk away with a game that wasn't officially over with 3 total sacks? It's been a while. It's been a while since you even could rack up 2 sacks in a game. So now you walk away with a game that was not even finished with 3 sacks on the night. So definitely a good. I would give it a B rating as well, Robert. I'll say it's a B for tonight. There could be some improvements. There could be. Robert, real quick, before we get to our 30-minute session for tonight, I want to ask you a question because I asked it to Philip earlier. It was a thing that I addressed it earlier in the week that I sent a voice memo to the group chat that I felt was kind of not a smart move of Raheem Morris not starting any starters on the offense side of the ball as far as Michael Penix, just to kind of shake the rust off, even if it is a drive. We see, Joe Burrow and some of these players like the whole Cincinnati's starting offense played for 2 drives. The Raiders started their starters. They even started Sean Jenny for like a whole half. By the way, only 3 carries for -1 yard for Jenny, the guy they said was better than Bijan. So you see teams around the league playing these starters, but the Falcons still choose not to play their starters. Robert, your thoughts on how do you view that? Should the Atlanta Falcons maybe let these players shake some rust off before they come to game day week 1? Because week 1 last year, Kirk Cousins was a little rusty. The offense itself was a little rusty. So, Robert, your thoughts on should they start or should they play some this preseason?
I think they should definitely get some reps in, especially your starters. I mean, I think that they should, if nothing else, maybe just 1 drive, just, to get, a feel for the game. I mean, you don't have to leave them out there. You don't have to open up the playbook and all that so much. And that's one thing, going back to the defense. I know, in preseason, you're not supposed to really show the world what you've got just yet.
Right.
But I think that, that was the right call tonight, to kind of show the scheme a little bit, because the fan base has really gotten fed up with the lack of effort and the lack of execution on the defensive side of the ball. But back to the offense, yeah, I think that, Penix should have gotten at least 1 drive in. I think we should have, put Kirk out there, maybe to, if he's going to stay in Atlanta, if he's going to push Penix, or say, if, God forbid, Penix get hurt, if he wants that backup job and he wants to play again, get those reps in, get that rust knocked off, because, if you're going to be thrust into the limelight and get on the field, your job is to win. And I think it's the coach's responsibilities to, put these players in the best position to not only win, but to, just play at a high level.
Yep, absolutely. I absolutely agree, because you got receivers like Jamar Chase playing in preseason. You got all these players like the best tight end in the league last year, Brock Bowers, out there taking hits in preseason. These guys are shaking the rust. These guys are getting ready for week 1. So I think before the preseason is over with, it don't have to be week 1 preseason, but before preseason week 3 is here, before the end of that game is over with, I want to see my starting offense at least do 1 drive, at least 1 drive. Give the fans something to buy and sell the tickets out for the game week 1. Give them something to be excited about. Give us a drive to go crazy for, to really make a statement. Robert, we're rounding up right here. 5 minutes till our 30-minute session here tonight for the Falcons versus Lions recap. Thank you, brother, for coming through and giving me the opportunity to chat with you tonight for the recap of the Falcons game. Before we get out, Vince says, watching the highlights on YouTube, NFL has uploaded the video. Great to see live plays for the team. How about that kicker railing that lone field goal? I went straight to social media, Vince, and I said, the Atlanta Falcons have a serious competition at the kicker position. Now, he did go on to miss a 53-yarder shortly after, in like the next quarter or so. He did miss a 53-yarder. But that's why you have a battle. That's why you have Koo. That's why you have Lenny Craig. That's why you have these guys on this roster, because at 57, he was down the middle for 57 yards, which was probably good for 10 more yards. The guy has a leg. If he can get the accuracy down, we have a serious kicker on our team. So very excited about that. Very, very glad to see where that goes. Robert, enough of me talking, man. Enough of keeping you up later tonight.
You're
Robert,
fine.
give me your shout outs for tonight, brother.
Well, shout out for having me on tonight. I greatly appreciate it. I was glad I was able to be here. Glad that we're finally seeing some action. It's been kind of a long summer for us, but we've had the podcast throughout the summer, but football is finally back, and it's like I've told you before, brother. I appreciate you letting me be a part of this. It's therapeutic for me. I mean, just with all I've been through in the last year, to just to talk Falcon football, and just it means a lot. It's there's not very many things in the world I know, but I know the Falcons.
Absolutely.
But
yes, sir.
But as always, shout out to our viewers and our subscribers. Without you guys, this isn't possible. Shout out to the Falcons themselves, and shout out to Dan Campbell and the Lions. Class act, classy organization, and calling the game tonight was the right decision. And prayers for Maurice Norris. And as always, shout out to my family, Brianna, Peyton, Zach, and Christy. I love you all. And as always, rise up.
Rise up, Mr. Robert. Real quick before I get out of here, Vince, do it. Pull the trigger. He's the real deal. I've seen it live in person. Penix will feed families this year. I'm telling you, Penix to Drake is going to be that connection. Maybe even Pitts. Who knows what happens? Falcon fans, hashtag DFU for a chance to win a work done jersey. If you're watching live, if you're watching after the podcast, leave a comment. I do have you, Dan Burst. I got your comment last week after the live video. You are entered for the chance to win the work done jersey. Falcon fans, do not miss this entry because it is going to be given away very, very soon. We have about 15 entries for this work done jersey. Get your hashtag DFU in so I can get you entered in that slot. Fantasy. Michael Penix is going to take you all the way, baby. Falcon fans, hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe. Shout out to you, Robert. Shout out to the old lady watching the kids in there right now. One's asleep, one is still running around. Falcon fans, appreciate you guys for being here late night with DFU at 10:44. We got over five viewers right now with us, Robert. Shout out to you people for being here tonight and rocking with DFU. We did have more, but they kind of dropped off as it got later.
We greatly appreciate it.
Very understandable. So shout out to all you people, man. Shout out to all the new subscribers. Over 35 subscribers in the last 2 weeks, man. We appreciate you guys. Could not do it without you. As always, man, you can catch DFU live every Friday night. Also live after every NFL Atlanta Falcon game. You will catch DFU with some kind of recap as you've seen tonight. Falcon fans, if we're at the game, we will be live at the game. If we're at home, we'll be at home live with it. Be sure to subscribe, ring that bell so you know when we drop our daily content, because even if it's breaking news, DFU is dropping you some kind of sort of content to be sure you keep up with these Atlanta Falcons. Hit the like, subscribe, ring the bell. We are out of here, man. A-Town down, rise up. Appreciate each and every one of you.